to explain real quickly, we are going away from gasolines and fossil fuels. That is going to happen. Sorry, people. It just has to. We're done. We have something better. Here's the better thing, too. In the future, we won't be getting charged for our electricity like we're paying for it now either.
Hello, today we have with us psychic medium David Hanzel at theywhispertome.com. He's been a frequent guest, so he doesn't need, I hope, too much introduction. For those of you who are new, go to theywhispertome.com. He has done quite a few readings for me, and he is phenomenal and kind and wonderful, and so thrilled to have you back. And before we get started, I'm trying to remember to do this. If you are viewing this on our YouTube channel, I ask kindly that you please like and subscribe. It helps get these powerful messages out there. Welcome, David.
Hello. Nice to be back.
Nice to
How are
have
you? Are you doing good?
I am doing good. I'm going through a really interesting time, but overall, I'm doing well.
Interesting times are good. It's exciting.
It is exciting. I feel like there's a lot that is about to unfold, and it feels more aligned and positive. Personally, knowing that there's a lot that the world and humanity is going through, which is why before we get started, I just ask if it's okay if I ask some questions of your guides about the future. And for those who are listening, some of the questions that come up for me are around healthcare and technology, AI, the environment, where we see ourselves, where he, meaning his guides, where they say 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, like what is up ahead and what are we being prepared for? That's where my curiosity lies.
Okay. Do you have a specific where you want to go?
Yeah. So well, tell me if this works for you. Like if we were to go, say, even just 10 years into the future and hang out there for a little bit, and I'll ask some questions, and then 20 years into the future, hang out there and I'll ask some questions.
We're laughing about 10 years and 20 years in the future.
Why is that funny?
Well, there's a chuckle. And to anybody who's listening, please, no matter what happens in this world, no matter what happens in your life, I'm going to remind you right now that you're going to be just fine. Okay? So you're going to be fine. Everybody's going to be fine. That's the way it goes. All right?
Yes.
The reason they laugh about 10 and 20 years in the future is because there are things that are coming up, and we have different ways we can go. So we do have the visitors who are actually here. They always have been here to make themselves more known to humanity. Will be within the next 10 years. So that's going to immensely change the whole dynamic of the place. And so it's kind of open to interpretation. There's several ways to go. I would like to let people know that so we're going to talk about otherworldly beings for a minute, because that is what's going to change our direction. All this could be going on right now, and it was, but the moment that a ship would land and say, "Hi, we're here," let everybody know, all of this stuff would stop. It would be like, all right, this stuff is just nonsensical stupid. This is just stupid. The war is stupid. The presidency, all that stuff is just stupid at this point. It's just senseless. It's just you guys being, we don't know what you're trying to accomplish. So things would change on that point. And it would change for a good reason. Please do not expect anybody to come here and save anybody. The saving starts within yourself. And I think that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for us to do things within ourselves, to become more aware, to become more tolerant, to become more non-judgmental of things. And yes, there is a difference between lie and truth. Even though a lot of people will say, well, what is the truth? What is the lie? And that's a really good question, because of the fact there are some people who believe a certain thing is the truth, even though the majority of us go, no, that's not the truth. Factually, that's not the truth. But in their eyes, it's where they are. It's kind of like when I was in the hospital when I came out of the coma and they thought I had dementia. I still remember parts of that. And yesterday I got a nice reminder that sent me into tears. For the longest time, I have not cried or been sad for years. And that came in, and it was a memory. And that was a memory when some lady posted about when her husband was sick and getting sick, they gave him the clock test for dementia.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that one well.
I had the clock test. So I was on the end of that clock test. I was the guy getting tested. Who would have known?
Mm-hmm. You were the receiving end
And
of it.
everything
Yeah.
in my head was mine, and it was real to me, and it was my truth. So even though to the world, the stuff I was thinking, they'd be like, oh, David, that's not happening. That's not like this. I'd be like, yes, it is. What do you mean it's not? And I would argue with them and get upset because it was literally my truth. I put it this way, if you want to gauge truth and lies. A truth most likely will not permanently hurt anything. The truth eventually will heal something that's hurt. And the truth will make something that isn't hurt not get hurt. A lie will hurt someone, and a lie will continue to hold somebody down. Always.
Yeah.
So if you believe in something and it's constantly holding you down, constantly making you frustrated, constantly making you this, then you might not be seeing the truth. You might be seeing the lie and mistaking it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So in 10 years from now, if they were to come here, there would be a complete shift because of the fact that, and I don't think they're going to be abrupt, just show up like that. Too many things will have to
And
change.
to clarify, I'm sorry, just to those who may not be totally following, you're talking about extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Other things, other beings being known, not even just extraterrestrials. I mean, there's some people believe that every extraterrestrial is coming from another planet here. That's not true. A lot of them are coming in through other ways. They're in dimensions right next to us. They always have been right next to us. Some of them are aware of us. Some of them aren't even aware that we're aware of them. I mean, it goes both ways. As they come in, the ones who are coming in interdimensionally, I believe, are more of spiritual type beings. If you are in, let's say, the fifth dimension, this is just how I see it. If somebody's listening sees it differently, that's okay. It's really okay. Everybody's got a certain way they look at things. The fifth dimension, to me, not fifth dimensional thinking, because a lot of us are in fifth dimensional thinking, but we're not in the fifth dimension. If we were in the fifth dimension, we probably wouldn't have our human bodies anymore. A lot of the aliens, I guess we'll call them, or extraterrestrials, are not of the physical form. There would be fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional, which means they're coming in and out. We're not as advanced as them because we don't remember that we're spirit. We are, from what I know of, and I could be wrong, but we're pretty much like the last ones left who don't know that we are not a human being. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We don't realize we're way much more than that. They come into this world knowing that already. They come in knowing that they're spiritual beings. They know that they're coming in as this being, having this experience to do X, Y, Z. People on the earth don't think that. We have so many of us that think, well, there isn't anything after this. We just die, or there's a hell, or there's some kind of threat, or the world's going to destroy, or we're just kind of running around in this universe with no direction whatsoever. And that could not be furthest from the truth. Even the times when you think, wow, that was random. Nothing is random. There isn't anything
random.
Nothing.
So the folks who are more the materialist, who are really just like anything that is true is something that I can touch through or connect through my senses. Other things do not exist.
And right now, the world is, it's almost like we're doing evolution, not just of the world. We've always been going through evolution, but we're doing evolution of the world. We're also doing evolution of the soul. We're also doing evolution of our learning, and all beings are. So the beings who are going to come here, in their eyes, we would think this is their first time coming here to do this, and to them, this is an adventure too. But they also know in the back of their heads as, no, this has happened in the future. We're playing out the future right now, which is really, I'm going to try not to make it too difficult to think about.
Yeah, that's like.
But to us, this is all new. To them, this is a process they're doing. They're fulfilling, let's just say they're fulfilling a prophecy. They're fulfilling something that already happened. So
Okay,
are
so they're
we.
not here. Yeah, so they're not here to save us, but I'm
Well,
curious.
they're here to push us. They have been. They're here to push us forward. We have to do it ourselves. Some people say, and I don't know how true this is, I have a feeling that they are all over. There's a bunch of ships all over in the atmosphere right now.
Hmm.
You know, they're there, so they say. I just from one particular experience I have to say that I know, because remember I told you one time I was driving down the road and I had said, "Where are you?" or whatever. And the next thing I know, it here's this band that's coming under the clouds, and I'm like, "Oh, dude, you're totally here," you know. And that was good. That was cool.
Hmm.
And I'm not any special why I saw it. It's just because I wanted to. And that's all anybody ever needs to be here. If you want to see or have that relationship with something that's not here yet, even if you don't believe it, if you're just open to saying, "Hey, I welcome any friends who come down here. I welcome seeing anybody. I don't care if they look like me or look like something else." That's a big thing we're going through, and we have been forever, is the look like me thing. And if you look the way the world is almost being trained, because they're watching us, you know. Why does this person think that that person who looks slightly different from them is bad?
Yeah, that's
And
such
they're
a,
like, that's not good because we look way different
yeah.
from they do. So
Yeah. Well, that's what
some
I want
do,
to
not all.
ask.
Some look like us.
Well, that's what I want to ask. And then I do want to get into healthcare and technology and just what
Mm-hmm.
life looks like differently. So I hear they're going to be coming here. They're going to be a catalyst for change. It's part of this process of like, come on, we need to level up. We need to wake up. They're not going to save us. But, since time immemorial, when you think about Hollywood or literature, when we think of other beings, it's like, oh my God, this is the scariest thing in the world, and they're going to attack us. How do human beings respond? We're afraid of each other. If someone's skin looks different from our own, we're afraid of them. How on earth will we respond to
That's
this?
why, and a lot of people will hide that too. And that's why the world is going through what it's going through. If you'll notice, maybe about, it's always been, we've always had conflict in the world, always, because that's what keeps, that's what keeps
Hmm.
us going. We have conflict. Otherwise, we'd just be boring. We'd come here and we'd sit here and go, nah, this is, Earth, yay, woo. We have to have something. We got to learn from conflict. So,
Hmm.
but conflict is fine. But if you ever see The Last Starfighter, do you remember that movie?
You've mentioned that before. I will see it. The Last Starfighter. I've never even heard of it outside of you.
Okay, it's almost the same thing right now. So in The Last Starfighter, in short, the synopsis is there's some kid who lives in the middle of nowhere who goes into the store and they has this like galaxy game or a video game like from the 80s or 90s, those kind of games, and he
Hmm.
plays it over and over and over. Well, he gets to this level, and that's where they come down and they get him to be the last starfighter to help in a war that's going on. They needed to find a pilot, so that's how they did it, by putting a game out there to see if there's somebody who could be like this. It's almost like the same thing they're doing to us. So let's give them this to see how they react to it.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the wars, people seeing little things here and there. They also said, you know what? There's a lot of people hiding a lot of stuff about themselves that needs to come to the surface. So that's
Okay.
where all the evil came from that people are seeing on here. So and I hate to say it, and I don't want to make anybody feel bad. So when I talk about something, I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm talking about
Okay.
clumps of people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
religion. Religion used to be a lot about love. Well, first it started out crappy and then really bad, and then there's a time where people who went to church were actually sweet people and wanted to help people, and then that went away. And now they want to judge people. They now have a man is now making people fear God, and that's not God doing that. That's us. We're doing that. I mean, what
Right.
better way to get money out of people or control out of people is to
Well,
say,
to
"Do as
control
I
the
say, or you
masses.
burn in
Yeah.
hell." Give us some
Yeah.
money so we can survive. God wants you to give us money so we can be here to tell you more stuff. Okay, so that's happening. That's getting worse and worse. And then the wars, and then politics. There is a truth in
Are you
politics.
saying that's happening? Wait, David, when you're
That's
saying
happening
that's happening,
now.
I mean, clearly that's happening now. But in
Yeah.
10 years is like a blip of time. That's not very long. But is that going to start to be, as you're talking about the
I
lies and
think
you're
in the
talking
next,
about
well, before that,
people,
it's going to start to decline. It's going to start to get better.
well
Yeah.
before that,
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
going to start to see it for what it is?
People, yeah, people are
Okay.
going to,
Okay.
people are now, there's a lot of people now who do have a change of heart, but they're afraid to say something. When all those people get
Yeah.
that courage up, we'll be good. And they will. They will.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I always tell
So I
people,
want to ask, can I ask? Go ahead.
my guy just
You were
said
going to
to
say, I
tell
always,
people, he said to tell people that once again, the change starts from within. When you start accepting all the differences that are in, when you start to see the beauty through the ick, when you start to tell yourself that evil is something that is in the mind of man, it is. He always says, "This is not in the mind of us. We know no evil. They don't know evil. Religion made evil. Religion made demons. Religion. None of this stuff existed before. So I mean, I kind of feel bad for like demonologists and all this when it's like, well, if they come here, you're going to know that there is no such thing as demons because they're going to let you know there are no demons. There are no ghosty
Yeah.
demons like this. Over there, over there.
yeah.
It exists
Yeah.
here
Okay.
because we think of it. Yeah.
Because we think we're so invested in thinking that, and for all the
Yeah.
reasons that you just spoke to. So I want to ask, in 10 years from now, and I think so many of our listeners, myself included, we have children. And so we're so invested in what does their future look like? And day to day, I'm hearing consciousness is starting to be elevated. There's more this love consciousness, people recognizing that this evil and
There's
control is not the truth.
there is something cool that's happening, and this is what I get from them, and I'll put it as a prediction, but it's liable. Is a cool thing that a really nice thing that is happening. You know, the children that, as of late in the last few years, have been born with like ADHD, and everybody's got all these problems, all
Yep.
these emotional problems. Those are going to start to deteriorate and go back down.
Oh,
People are
thank
going to
God.
start to stop having them.
Oh, I
We're
love
figuring
that.
this out now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Very, very
It-
good.
It's misunderstood by us. We see it as an emotional disease, but that's only because we don't know what these people and these kids, they're actually
Yeah.
more of their true selves, and we want them to conform to us.
I love that, and I agree with you. And I love that we're now even calling it neurodiversity rather than it's, a pathology. That recognizing people process information differently, their brains are wired differently, and
Exactly.
perhaps that is for a reason, and it's helping again to elevate us.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's one thing I really want to ask about, and it's very, very specific, and it's been on my mind a lot as someone who has a chronic disease. Is CRISPR technology, gene editing. Some people I talk to, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's really going to be in many ways the panacea for reversing so many diseases." And some people are like, "Just that is the worst thing we could be doing. We are playing with fire. It could lead to all sorts of terrifying outcomes." What are you getting? What are your guys
To
getting on
do,
CRISPR
say what the word
technology?
is again.
CRISPR, it's CRISPR, CRISPR technology, it's gene editing.
Okay. They come at me with a little bit of laughter because I said you guys have had your genes edited many, many times. Either in that form, we've changed many times. We've been tweaked. Who humans are. Humans aren't in original existence. Sorry, people. That whole we're in God's image has nothing to do with what we look like. That has to do with our soul. I don't understand. Okay. I don't understand it, so I'm going to tell you what he's saying. It's going to be okay because they're going to figure it out.
That's
It's
what
going
I've
to
been
be it's
hoping.
going to be helpful. It can be used in another way, but I think that's going to be cut off right away.
Okay, good.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense to me because used in the wrong hands and used with malevolence, it could lead to cataclysmically horrific outcomes for humanity. And I think, understandably, that's what people are afraid of. But in 10 years, will it be used in ways that help to cure disease?
A little longer.
That right now, a
A
little
little bit
longer,
longer. Little longer than 10 years. But it'll start to
a little
incorporate.
longer.
Yeah. There's a
Okay.
full what there's the understanding is not going to come from most of the people here. This is that's one of those things where there's a lot of technology that they had told me about, and there's a lot of cures for everything that we have that are deep in. Some people won't accept the cure the way it goes, but it's the right way to do it. Um, every human being, and they had told me this before, every single human being on your planet, when you come here, has the ability to heal itself completely, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the world
You have
works,
been
and because of the
saying this.
yeah, because of the fact that we are under that, they'll call it a spell. So we're under
Yeah.
that spell of amnesia. So we forget where we're coming from. It's just this reality where we are. We can't change that about the reality. The thinking has to change the reality. The reality can't change the thinking. Does that make sense? Because
It does.
we make the reality. The reality, they give us a piece of paper and then we draw on it. And that's what we've been doing. Now, we
Mm.
have people with special pencils and special pens who, if they were to draw on that in fear of ruining what's out there right now or changing it too much, they won't write on it, but it's still there. They're incorporating these things in there. What you're talking about, the reason it's not out there is because there are some people, thank you. Thank you. There are some people, he said, let her know that some people can't know about it, is what it is. Does that make sense? Some people are not to know about it. They would use it wrong. They already
Okay.
know that.
Okay. That's why I'm
So it's
asking the
secret.
question.
It's
That's why I
secret.
phrased in
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
So the technology is already available and to some extent, but the timing is off, is what I'm gathering from your guides.
It's not off as exactly where it should be. The timing's going to show up where it's
Well,
supposed to. Yeah.
good rephrase, good phrase. The good. So it's not to happen now
No, it can't. It can't.
because
Yeah.
of some
But it
dark
will.
people who would misuse it and abuse it.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff that's
Okay.
out there that biggest reasons for it. So when some people get mad, going, "We have all this technology. Why aren't they releasing it?" Because some people aren't ready for the technology. It's like if you have a 5-year-old and you say, "Hey, here's a book of matches. Look what this does. Isn't that cool?" And then the 5-year-old goes, "Yeah," and starts lighting stuff on fire. That doesn't mean that the 5-year-old is evil, but it means he had no clue how to use that information. And that's what it is with that information you're talking about. There are people who still haven't a clue how to use it.
Okay. Okay. So I have a few more, well, more than a few more questions, and a lot of these questions are coming from a couple of podcasts I saw where this man that I recently actually met, his name is Stefan A. Schwartz. He, for most of his career, which has been about 50, maybe even 60 years, has been engaged in remote viewing. And he has talked about in the future two things happening. And I'm not saying this is within 10 years, but it was mostly around 2040 to 2050 that there's going to be, like in the next 30 years, this monumental shift. And he had something like, I can't remember how many viewers, I think like 6,000 viewers. And then he just culled through the data to try to find what thematically is emerging. So a couple of things that were really interesting, and I'd be curious to hear what your guides are saying. I'll start with most vehicles are EV, electrical vehicles, and they're actually getting charged from the roads, the streets, in some sort of way mechanism,
I
charge the
can see
batteries.
that. I can see that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
He
are
also
going,
said, okay.
to explain real quickly, we are going away from gasolines and fossil fuels. That is going to happen. Sorry, people. It just has to. We're done. We have something better. Electricity is better. Here's the better thing, too. In the future, we won't be getting charged for our electricity like we're paying for it now either.
That's exactly what he said as well. And I believe he
Yep.
did. If it wasn't him, it was somewhere else that I heard that.
Yeah, that's coming.
He also was saying, okay, what he was also saying, the remote viewers were revealing, is states seceding there's going to be blue states essentially and red states. Like the United States will still be the United States. It will still be a sovereign country. However, there will be sort of different little factions.
That's a possible.
And he said what they're okay.
It's a possible.
Okay.
That one, I know what he's talking about. I know what he's talking about because I had a couple visions like that too. There, I had different ones. I like one better than I like the other, but it's not up to me. One is we do that, what he said. The other is,
Okay.
which a lot of people don't like, is all the boundaries go away because there's no need for them. When we keep even putting
The boundaries
like blue
between
states,
states.
yeah, even when we put blue states to red states, as human beings, we're doing exactly what they're on the other side trying to get us to stop doing. Quit separating yourself. Is that's what we're doing. We keep falling under the, let's separate. That's your idea. You guys go over there and have your idea. You guys come over here and have this idea. It's like, no, we can just be together and have separate ways we see things, but we don't have to separate ourselves. That's what I think they're going through. It's kind of like when people say, oh, you should never talk to people about politics and religion. I thought to myself, if you're grown up, smart, and aware, you should be able to have that conversation. There's no reason why you shouldn't.
Right.
And that's the reason why it is like it is, because nobody's having that conversation. Everybody's
Right.
afraid of these
And they don't have
things.
they don't have the
So I
skill
do
set
see
to do
the,
so
I do
without
see that
having to
part
get
he's talking
explosive.
about. I think that's sooner than later.
Okay.
And I think later on, it's where they take, I mean, later on, literally this world will not have separate governments. It won't.
Okay, that's way later on.
It's way later on, but yeah, most of us won't
Way
see it
later
in
on.
this lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What he also said was, and again, what his data is revealing, are revealing, excuse me, is that certain states, due to climate change, will be uninhabitable, like a state like Arizona, because the heat
If we
index
stay
will
on
be
this path. If we stay
okay.
on this path.
And he said this is
Yeah,
what they're
he's
saying,
seeing,
and that there are all these different paths we can go down.
if you look at it this way, and I'm not being mean. Okay. You know, and I hate to say this to people, and some people might hate me, but I don't really care. If we keep denying climate change, yes, we will have uninhabitable places on this earth, and that'll be the fault
Yeah.
of our own. All right.
Right.
I don't see that happening because the other ones who aren't here with us, let's call them the extraterrestrials, they don't want us to go through that because they know when there's going to be another mass extinction. We've had several of them. We've had many species that have been here, ruled the world for millions of years, and then left. We do not want to be those. So we are being closely watched and monitored because they don't want us to do that. But if we do, that's us. So if we keep denying climate change, if we keep saying, oh, this is nothing, weather changes, no, it is literally changing. And it is because of us. So we can just, and that's one of the things, if we are in that part where there is electricity and we are charging vehicles on the road and all that, that's where, that would be the time that we got past the climate change then. Because that would have
Okay.
helped in climate change. Yeah.
Okay, that's so interesting because he was saying both were existing at the same time. So there was the EVs. He was saying states like Arizona no longer are inhabitable. He was saying the coasts have eroded. Parts of like Santa Monica,
California,
Manhattan Beach, and
if
Venice
we
Beach.
deny California where you are, I saw one time. And
Yeah,
it
I'm not in
wasn't-
California. I'm in Washington.
Washington, but in like in Los Angeles, because I'm just talking because that's what I'm talking about is Los Angeles, where Los Angeles is. There was. I saw something one time, and it wasn't major destruction, so it's not like a doom and gloom thing.
Yeah.
But we saw the ocean was starting to change. The ocean was starting to change. It was becoming different. And it was the coastline didn't look as neat and tidy. It was starting to get eroded over. This has already happened in Florida.
Well, that's what I was
water
going to say
temperature-
next. It's just risen
The water temperature
precipitously.
has already changed in Florida. It's like, what does Mother Nature have to do to people
To
to
say,
get them to
"Come
go,
on."
there's something wrong?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we keep
Okay.
getting, now there is some stuff like they keep coming up with new diseases and new species of animals and bird flus and all that. I will tell you this, some of it is true, a lot of it is absolutely 100% conspiracy, not true.
Okay.
But we have to, we either fall for it or we don't. it's
Okay.
kind of like it's kind of like some diseases. We all have the spark of that disease in us. It's just how the bodies go. And depending on how we take care of ourselves is whether we get that disease.
Well, it's not only how we take care of ourselves, is what I'm learning. It's how we take care of the environment because
And
they're
the environment, yeah.
interchangeable. That
Yeah.
that that symbiosis, right? And so he was saying, and again, this if we go down this path, there will continue to be more pandemics because of the link between our health and the environment.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
in
He
it,
was
people are
also
getting with their
go ahead.
food. Their food. Yeah, their food too. Because they told me
Yeah.
about that before. Because I had just asked my guide one night point blank. I'm like, because my pancreas went out, but that was cause a different cause. Mine just doesn't digest food, so I don't have. It's like a form of EPI almost. It's like endocrine pancreatic insufficiency. I have to take pills for the rest of my life to digest food, other it won't digest. And I won't get the nutrients. That is because people ask me, is that something that you happen because you were a bad person or something? I'm like, no, it's because how I lived my life prior to when I was sick. So I have to still learn that lesson. So I'm here. It's gotten
Yeah.
better though. But food,
Okay.
with like people, how many people have IBS? How many people are allergic to dairy all of a sudden? How many people are doing that?
Yeah.
And they keep telling us, they're like, you guys leave the food alone. They're getting too greedy with the food. They're over processing, they're over making, they're over killing, they're overdoing all these things. And these are the
Right.
consequences. Yeah.
Well, right. Roundup in our meat. I mean, excuse me, in our wheat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
They're playing
Yeah.
with this stuff, and people can. And he said that's the only reason you guys are having this. He said it doesn't even have to be a pandemic. You can literally solve this if people stopped eating this stuff. They would have to stop producing it because nobody would want it. It'd be a
Yeah.
waste of
That
their
that's
money.
that's a big. All of this is a very monumental shift.
That's
A
why they
very
always say
monumental
it
shift. But
starts within
obviously,
you and it goes out. Yeah.
yes. Yes. Okay. Another thing that was revealed was that hospitals are vastly, vastly different. They're like wellness centers and they're far more holistic and it's mind, body, spirit, and they recognize a lot of what you're just saying right now, this change in consciousness, that
I
that is
believe
in
in
the
like
future.
20 years, in the 20-year future, right around that area. I can't be specific. Our hospitals will not just contain doctors, they will contain healers. They will
Yeah.
contain Reiki. They will contain crystal healers. They will contain these things. The reason these things don't work for everybody right now is because of the belief in it. If you
That's
don't
right.
believe in something, it doesn't work.
Well, that's that placebo nocebo
It
effect. I
is.
mean, it's so
Yeah.
powerful. It's
And
so
that's going to be
powerful.
in there. It's just like I agreed. They started something, and I wish they would do it for the police. They were going to start taking trained psychologists or spiritual people to go along to, like, if there's a domestic dispute, it wouldn't just be a police officer going over there. They could call in somebody to come over and say, let's talk about this now. Instead of taking someone to jail, instead of doing
Yeah.
all this, let's sit down and talk about this and have a mediator. Because a policeman can't do that. A policeman's
No.
job, and it's not their fault,
No,
their
it's not.
job is not to write the law, it's to uphold the law.
Yep.
That's what it is.
Yep.
That's the only thing they can do. But if we
Uh-huh.
have trained people that says, I have been trained to speak to people, I have been trained to do that,
Yeah.
we could probably get rid of a lot more violent things and a lot
Yeah.
more senseless domestic violence things that aren't
Yeah. Well, that,
necessary.
yeah, that applies to so much. I mean, it's really fundamentally looking at the infrastructure of how we deal with humanity, between in our cities and I think
I
our inner
know
cities when you think of
there's a small
policy.
change that I don't think people are seeing yet, but I think it'll start. I think people will start to see it, and that is with domestic abuse. So
Mm,
I had asked about it one time because I don't know. I've never been like a woman who was beaten by a man, or that I
not in
remember
this
anyway.
lifetime.
Not this one. Yeah, I'm sure I have. But when that happens, in our current situation, they go to the house, the guy just beat the crap out of somebody, and they take him to jail, and she's stuck sitting there, and then she's put through the system, which is probably just as scary as the person hitting her. And
Right.
that shouldn't be like that. The minute that person's gone, that person who was hurt should immediately have people around her to help her, not put her through processes and talk to people and put paper, but just to be with that person.
Yeah.
We always leave that step out. There's no compassion for that person. They go from a mechanical relationship where they were, beat or threatened all the time, thrust
Living
into
in
another
terror.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Right.
most people saying, well, are you sure you didn't instigate that? Okay, no, I want to backhand those people who say stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
No, because nobody instigates violence, really. There's really no need for it. Even if somebody instigates it, unless somebody's trying to physically hurt you, there is no reason to come back to hurt that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
There really isn't.
Okay. No, no,
Yeah.
no. And what we're talking about is rehabilitation. And what we're talking about, is, like you said, is the
Yeah.
compassion to understand what this does to a human being, the human
Yep.
spirit, and help people to move out of abject poverty and domestic violence
Yeah.
rather
So you'll
than
see
just
that within the next
perpetuating.
20 years. Yeah.
Okay, I
You'll see
love
that
that.
within the next 20.
Okay, I love that. So let's talk a little bit about AI. I mean, we already have things like ChatGPT,
Okay.
and there are all these, smart devices, but a lot of people are really excited about it, and then you hear a lot of doomsday, like the machines are going to take over.
You're always going to have doomsday people. They've made too many movies. That's why. Um, I'm going to tell everybody this. The AI we have right now will never, ever, 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 ever replace a human being. Okay? That just is not going to. Now, this is what the question I had asked is, will we ever make a robot that we can put a soul into? And the answer is yes.
Really? I'm sitting here going, no,
It's happened
no.
already. It hasn't happened here. Some of the grays that we see, the grays that people talk about, not all of them, but there's some section of them. They were literally made in a test tube. They're like test tubey or whatever. They're made like that. They're more mechanical and everything, and the soul comes into them. How they do it, I do not know. I do not know. I asked, and my guide, one guide said the three words to me, doesn't matter. I'm like, oh, that means it's going to be an explanation I will not understand.
Okay.
That will be eventually. I believe that will be eventually. I also believe eventually that limbs will be able to be replaced by people.
Yeah, I've heard limbs and teeth and regrown. I mean, that's through that gene editing. That's exactly
It's
harkens
coming.
back to
Yeah,
what I was
it's coming.
bringing up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay, so I feel like I
We've
already know the
already
answer to this,
experimented
David.
in some. Huh?
Okay. I have another question for you, and I feel like I already know the answer to it, but I'm just going to ask it nonetheless, which is, and this is one of Stephen Schwartz's biggest fears. He said, with all of this gene editing, that we could have this new emergence of a human race that is far superior in intelligence, in attractiveness, in athleticism, right? Basically, making this superior race, and that it would in some way compound racism.
If that were to happen, yeah, it wouldn't be good. And people always think there will be it's not 20 years from now, it's a little later than that. There does feel to be a part, and I'm going off other systems that had been here before. I'm looking into the next world over that is just like our world, that would be going through something different. So if I look through that,
Okay.
it looks to me like they started it here. It started with us editing out traits that we didn't like about people. So people
That's
decided,
right.
so if we had a particular scientist, let's say, or a sect of scientists who were very strong religious, say that aliens hadn't got here yet and we're still on our religious kick, they would say, well, we don't like gay people, so we found the gene, and your kid has the gay gene, so you want to keep him or what? And that's where it would go to. But the world is already messing itself up on that one. because now we have a lot of people who saying, oh, we want everybody has to live. So now they want, now everybody, they don't want to be pro-choice, they want to be pro-life. Well, if you're pro-life and we decide that
But
we're
that
going to
is
keep all those,
bullshit.
what do you guys, yeah.
That means that the logic doesn't follow. It's really picking and choosing.
It
And saying,
does.
here's
And
where I'm going to apply it, and here where I'm not going to apply it. There's going to be choice here, and
that's
liberty
why
here,
that
and
did,
control here.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why that stopped already. Remember that started it was a couple of years ago. They talked about, oh, if we can identify the gene, we can, or we
Right.
can see if your kid's going to have Down syndrome ahead of time and all that. Now, if we can see diseases ahead of time, which I believe we will be able to do that, and I do believe that they'll be able to correct the disease while the baby is still in utero.
In utero. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
So
that
what
would
I
be a
hear,
beautiful thing.
it would be a beautiful thing to eliminate so much or minimize so much human suffering. So back to this question, what I'm hearing you say is like, yes, there's going to be the capability, and it depends on what track we go down to create this superior human race, however that is deemed. But, you know, people who are not going to be falling susceptible to certain diseases, they're highly intelligent, they have particular characteristics that are considered attractive or whatever that may be, that those people could then be very, very powerful. What I'm hearing you say is that could happen, but it goes back to starting with the person and having a more elevated spiritual consciousness so that there is more compassion and wisdom to help to avoid that.
Yeah. If we go the spiritual way, not the religious way, not the non-religious way, not the atheist way, but the
Right.
spiritual way. And the spiritual to me basically means the spirit moves on, the soul moves on. That's what spiritual is, okay?
Right.
We all have that belief. If we stay in that, it won't matter what anybody looks like. They won't want to try to fix anybody's looks, but they will want to try to fix
Disease.
disease. Now, sometimes disease needs to be fixed by changing appearance in certain people. Because some different diseases change things about us.
Well, like burn victims,
Yeah.
right? Like someone has been burned, if you can find something to help them regrow skin rather than graphing.
Exactly. And I think stuff like that will be in the future. And I also believe that stuff like burn victims won't even be a thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening now at some point will not be a thing. Okay. We won't we used to get a cut when we were in our 20s and die from, and die from an infection
Staph
years and
infection.
years ago. And now we don't. Now we get a cut and you just run to the store and throw Bactine on it. It's going to be the same thing for all these other diseases. Oh, I got severely burned. Well, come on over to this house and let's fix you. Boom, 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 boom. You're done.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be nice.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it's not just a pipe dream. It is something that could happen, and I believe stuff like that will happen because I do believe, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that is developed right now, and there's a lot of technology that is known, and it's being filtered down to us. The whole thing about, I don't think people should worry right now at this moment. And like you said, he feared that in the distance we would be doing this stuff. Well, there's no need to fear it. You just look at it and go, do you think this would be of service to humanity, or do you think this would go against humanity? And if you think, oh, it'd go against humanity, there you go. Then if we're all in that mindset, or most of us are in that mindset, then it won't happen because no one's going to produce it. But
So
if we fear something, there's going to be a human being that goes, I know how to regain power again.
That's
I have
exactly.
something for them to fear.
I know. So this is all really predicated on the masses being able to get into greater alignment with love consciousness. And the optimist in me says, oh, that will be amazing. Should we be able to do that? But it's hard to look around where we are right now and feel very optimistic.
Okay, I get that. And this is what I've been going through lately, and all the things that I've been going through, I've been, as you know, there's a huge awareness shift coming up. So a lot of people are going bonkers right now.
Okay,
It's
good.
because they're coming aware, and it's really funny. Is I
Yes.
feel bad for the people
Yes.
who are inherently evil right now, and they're coming and they're getting awareness in them. They're like, wait, no, wait, what is this? And they're like, wait, I feel better. What happened? Um, Most of the stuff that we're all talking about, the bad stuff in our
Yeah.
trajectory, how we are thinking, we are
Okay.
not going to see. We are okay.
Oh,
We are doing
okay.
better. We are doing better.
Okay.
Here's what I would love to tell the audience, and my guide said this to me. It was just last week. I had a big talk on it. I did. We still have to remember that a large percentage of our information is only coming from a small amount of sources. So they are telling us what they want us to hear and not giving us options for everything. So it's kind of like, okay, I see bad stuff happening, but I also see really good stuff happening. I
Okay.
still see really good stuff happening, and that's what I focus on. If you can focus on that good stuff happening and help it to keep happening, that is what the
Yeah.
direction we're going to go. But if
Okay.
we concentrate on the bad crap all the time and just sit back every night and go, well, what's the sense in that? The whole world's going to hell in a handbag. They're going to take over everything. And you're talking like, Marge from Minnesota, all upset about stuff while your husband goes bowling. You're going to end up in that world. We
Okay.
all get the
Okay.
world we deserve. So whatever world
Yeah.
you believe you deserve is the world that you eventually are going to have. And I have
Well, it
faith
goes
in
back. Yeah.
humanity. Yeah, I have faith in humanity, and Ariel had said that to me over and over. Ariel's the archangel guide that I talk to. She always tells me,
Yes.
as hard as it is, try to find you and God in everyone you see, because it's there.
Mm.
Sometimes it's just real
Yes.
deep. And she said, that's why we're bringing it out. And in order for that to come out from everybody, all that crap in front of it has to go out into the air someplace. You know what I'm saying? So it has to be
Mm-hmm.
done. We're in the part of the world where the world was wounded and it got infected, and now somebody ripped off the band-aid. And
Well, it
here we
goes,
are.
yeah. I love that. It goes back to, I have another recurring guest. Her name is Christina Brinkley, and she did a beautiful show where she talked about, we're here for a reason to bear witness to a lot of these things, to learn how to metabolize our emotions, but we also have to clear our emotions. We can't just, it's like she talked about, you can't just like have someone come in and clean your house once a year. If you didn't ever dust or ever vacuum or ever do the dishes, all these emotions and negativity would pile up. You have to learn how to, and she gave some tools, clear that
She's
emotion so
absolutely
that we
correct.
can get back to,
Yep.
yes, we can get back to a place of integrity of being able to say, I'm going to look for the God and love in you because it is there. A lot of us are laden with heavy, painful emotions, but we signed up for this, and part of that is the responsibility to say, if I chose to be here, I have to also take responsibility for my own healing so that I can be part of making a positive impact and difference towards this future we want to collaborate on
Yeah.
creating together.
If we can stop looking at every little thing with judgment, and that is the biggest thing. It's funny.
Mm.
Judgment isn't, don't make judgment a bad word, but every time we see something, we judge it. Like, oh, that person didn't do that right. I don't like it. I'm going to judge it. It's a bad thing. And then you get
Yeah.
enough people to say it's a bad thing, and then it becomes a bad thing. And that's just how it goes. We can't do that. Sometimes, like for me in my work or how I've been taught and think, I have to say, thank God I died and came back. Because
Mm.
now my perspective on things is I don't look at it and make a judgment. I observe it. And that's why when they had started showing me the stuff about sages and all that, they're like, this is what you do. You go from life to life and you observe everything and you figure out, how could I make this better? And he said,
Yeah.
that's what you're constantly thinking. How can I make it better? Not like, oh, this is getting worse. Well, we know it's getting worse. How can you make it better?
Well, yeah, I love that. And that really connects to what our soul's missions are and getting more connected with our own higher sense, our own higher
Exactly.
selves, to be able to say, what unique gifts can I impart on the world that will help to make it better? And maybe someone is an incredible athlete and they inspire people, or they're a writer or a singer or a doctor or a mother or a parent, or, whatever that is that they feel called to do, or they're in their like lane of connection.
Yeah. People don't realize it, but it really is possible to change your state of emotion at any point. You can change it.
Yes.
Some are harder than others, but it
Yes.
can be done. And I argued with my guides and I said, no, I remember one day I was sad and they're like, no, smile right now. And I'm like, no, I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm sad. I walked around this house and they said, well, then be angry and sad. And when you're done, smile, okay? And I walked around this house, I was this and that, and I started laughing at that. I'm like, what do you mean smile? How's that going to change anything? And I ended up finding myself having this lovely conversation and laughing my butt off, thinking that I'm such a dork for getting so angry. And it's, so we can change these things. We just have to realize that I think people forget that they're more powerful than they know. But
I agree.
we're not taught that. We're taught that we're feeble
No,
human
we're not.
beings who can't do anything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the way
And
they
that our
keep us
power
down.
is just, the power is in it's the game of capitalism. Like, I will only win if someone loses.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's not true.
Okay.
You know what? When you realize you will win if somebody else wins. I always say I've gone out before with my mom and we went running around. I will spend the entire day consciously opening the door for everybody. And it's so fun to watch them walk in. They're like, "Thank you." I'm like, "You are so welcome." And you just all of a sudden you get all these happy people from
It's
one
contagious.
stupid little thing, opening a door for someone. I tell people, they think that changing the world is so hard, but no, it starts with one little gesture and then it passes on. And that one little gesture at one day will become this grand, beautiful thing. And this will be a perfect place to be. You know?
I love that. I love that. So time goes by so quickly, as it always does. Is there any last thing that your guides are saying? You didn't say this, or tell them this.
If you're fighting for something in this life, if you're fighting for a cause or something, they said fight for it like you mean it. They said fight for it and win. Don't take anything less. So that's for the people fighting. For the people who are not fighting, they said there's no sense in you disturbing the people fighting. Let them do what they do and you go about your business. Thank you. What he's saying in a sense is, if you are somebody who's just at home complaining about politics all day long and making life literal for anybody and not doing anything about it, then you should shut up. If you say, I really feel something's wrong, I really feel like I want to get up and help this cause, then get up and help that cause.
That's
But
right.
if you just sit back, complain, and all you're doing, you're just being a cheerleader of doom and gloom. And that is my biggest thing
perpetuating.
too. There's a lot of doom and gloom psychics and mediums out there and spiritual people too.
know.
Everything is going
Oh
on. It's
my
like,
gosh, yes.
oh no, what happened? Yeah, everything is a bad
It's not
thing.
helpful.
Everything is fear. Yeah.
And it's going to get worse. Everything is about to get worse. Buckle up, folks. Yeah. Yeah, that's just.
But it's going to
so-
get better then. Yeah. It's going to get good.
All right. Well, it will get good. I believe that it will get good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
How I Made It Through is produced and distributed by EIQ Media, LLC. Elevate your emotional IQ with podcasts and content focused on overcoming adversity, leadership, mental health, entrepreneurship, spiritually transformative experiences, and more.